Good evening, everybody. Thank you so much for joining the session, which is organized by Sai Chronicle. So, a very short brief about who we are and what we do. So, Sai Chronicle is basically a community forum where we completely engage people from different parts of the country, and we organize sessions on various facts and something that is not known to the society. So, we are very new and we are learning together as a team. So you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So moving into today's talk, titled Managing PCOS. So polycystic ovaries is one of the major concern amongst many women and young girls. So the speaker for today is an expertise in the field of nutrition and dietetics, and she will be able to guide us all and give us a detailed plan on how we can manage and overcome PCOS. So basically, a girl or a woman with PCOS will undergo a lot of depression because she might have not have her menstrual cycle regularly, and there will be a lot of other depression associated with the PCOS problem. So this session will be an eye opener for all the concerns related to PCOS. So now a very short Okay, so a very short introduction about the speaker. So Bharati Ramesh, she has a background in nutrition, food service management, and dietetics from Women's Christian College, Chennai. She practiced as a nutritionist for a year before moving to United States, and she is currently doing her master's program. And she is pursuing her MS in human nutrition at University of Delaware. You can find her on Instagram where she gives beautiful nutrition tips on how we handle each and every health problem. Over to you, Bharati.
Thank you so much for the introduction, Harni. Can everyone hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. So, um, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Like Harni beautifully introduced me. My name is Bharti. I am currently doing my master's in human nutrition, and I will be talking about how to manage PCOS with you all today. Now, just to understand the audience, how many of you here have been diagnosed with PCOS? Feel free to unmute yourself, or you can even send it in the chat box if you want. Okay, I see 3 responses. Okay. Now, feel free to engage. I want this session to be informative, but also for you guys to engage and clear all of your doubts. Okay, great. So we have some responses in the chat box. All right, good to know. And I'm glad you guys joined this session, and I hope you find this useful. Let's get started. So, we are here to talk about PCOS today. Now, the full form of PCOS is polycystic ovarian syndrome. In a short time, I'll explain what it is to you. Background. Now, PCOS has become very common today that either we are diagnosed with it or someone we know has it. It could be your family, it could be your friends. Somebody or the other that we know has an experience with PCOS. Now, this is not a relatively new condition. Polycystic ovaries have been found for more than a century. Over 150 or 60 years ago, people started noticing that women are developing cysts on their ovaries, but they didn't really understand what that meant. They didn't understand what having cysts on our ovaries meant for our whole body and our health. Now, in 1935, two physicians noticed that in women who have cysts on their ovaries, there are some common symptoms. Instead of looking at the symptoms separately, they started looking at it as a whole entity. They started noticing that there are common patterns and symptoms in women who have cysts on their ovaries. Now, today it has become one of the most common disorders of humans, especially the most common endocrine abnormality in women who are of reproductive age. Now, it's very common, but how common is it? In India, it's estimated that 1 in 10 women can have PCOS. Globally, this ranges from 2% to anywhere to 26%. In some parts of the world, the prevalence could be low, but in other parts, it could be as high as 1 in 4 women having PCOS. Now, for us to first understand what PCOS is, we need to revisit some eighth standard biology. We would have learnt about our ovaries and our reproductive system sometime in school, but we might have lost touch with it. Now, can anyone tell me what the function of ovaries is? You can unmute yourself, and it doesn't have to be right. You can just whatever you remember. Okay, so I'll ask easier questions again in some time. So I want somebody or the other to answer. Okay, great. Production of egg. That's perfect. Now, where are your ovaries located? They are located in the lower abdominal area. You can see it right here near the fallopian tube. Now, ovaries are they come in pairs. We have two ovaries, and they are the size of an almond, maybe approximately the size of a thumb. They are very small organs located in our lower abdominal area. They are our primary sex organ. Now, for men, it's testes, but for women, the most important sex organ that we have are our ovaries, despite the small size of them. Now, your secondary sex organs are the ones that are surrounding the ovaries, like fallopian tube, your uterus, vagina, external genitals, vulva, and also your mammary gland. Now, the tertiary or accessory sexual characters are, once we hit puberty, you will notice that our body goes through a lot of changes. Our voice changes. For men, when they hit puberty, their voice becomes low pitched, but for us, our voice can become high pitched. And also, as we grow and our body develops, we'll notice that our shoulders are narrower than the shoulders of men, and our hips are wider than what it is for men. So these are changes that our body goes through, and the primary driving force behind all of these changes are ovaries. Now, somebody answered this very rightly. They produce eggs for reproduction. That is their first and foremost function. The second function is they produce hormones. Now, these two hormones are what most people are familiar with, estrogen and progesterone. They are commonly called women's hormones or female hormones. Now, what do these hormones do? For your body, for a woman's body to develop and for us to hit puberty and have our menstrual cycle, these hormones are very important. And on top of that, they also make our reproductive system ready for childbirth. And even for the development of your child, these hormones are very important. They play a very critical role. Now, in PCOS, we know that something about our ovaries is getting affected. That is why we have all of these symptoms, right? And I'm very glad that Harini mentioned there's a lot of depression associated with it. Now, something about our ovarian function is affected, which is going to affect our overall health. Let's look at what happens when we have PCOS. First and foremost symptom that we are familiar with is having cysts on our ovaries. That is the symptom that most people are familiar with. Now, there are other symptoms. The second one also very common, menstrual dysfunction. It's either not having your period at all, or having very irregular periods. When I say irregular, it could be once in 2 months, once in 3 months. Having less than 10 periods in a year can be a symptom of PCOS. On the other hand, having more frequent periods like shorter cycles, bleeding in 20 or 25 days, 25 is fine, bleeding in like much more shorter duration can also is not a symptom of PCOS. It's very rarely seen in women. Most women with PCOS have longer cycles. The third one is having other symptoms that are visible on the outside. Now, you might have heard of this. Women who have acne tend to have, they find out that they could have PCOS. So it is not that all women with acne have PCOS, but in PCOS, these three things are more common. One is having acne, the other one is having unwanted hair growth. Now, this could be on your face, your neck, your chest, or your back, or on any other body parts. And the third one is having male pattern balding, which is called alopecia. Now, if you notice, as men grow older, they start going bald from the top of their heads. But for women, it doesn't happen. maybe our hair can thin out and it can start falling, but we don't really start going bald like men. But in PCOS, women could start noticing that their hair becomes thinner on the crown, and they could have also have some hair fall there, leading to male pattern balding. Now, the fourth one, which doesn't show up externally but could be on the inside, is having high androgen levels. Now, androgen is uh, the name for male hormones. Because we are women, it doesn't mean that we don't have any male hormones at all. We do have some amount of male hormones, but the level is comparatively more significantly less when you compare it with men. So the most commonly known male hormone is testosterone. So in women with PCOS, the male hormone level could be slightly elevated. But having said all of this, a woman need not have all four of these symptoms to be diagnosed with PCOS. Having any two out of these four, or even three, or even all four, could lead to the diagnosis that you have PCOS. The most known symptom of PCOS, which is in the name itself, polycystic ovaries. So the one on the left is our normal ovary without any cysts. That's what it looks like. On the right, you can see that there are cysts developing on the ovaries, and the ovary itself becomes enlarged. Now, this is the symptom that most people associate with PCOS. And on an ultrasound, this is what your ovary could look like if you have PCOS. But interestingly, you don't need to have polycysts to have PCOS. I know it's there in the name itself, but in some cases, you could not have cysts on your ovaries and still have PCOS if you have any of the other symptoms. Okay, so there are three authoritative bodies that have been trying to come up with a good criteria to diagnose PCOS. Because the symptoms are different in each woman, it gets difficult for a proper diagnosis to happen. So these three bodies have been trying to come to a consensus on what symptoms can be diagnosed as PCOS. Now, as you can see, the three things that I've highlighted, even in the case of not having cysts on your ovaries, if you have the other three things or even two things, you could potentially have polycystic ovarian syndrome. The reason why this is an exception is we say polycystic ovarian syndrome, but syndrome means a group of symptoms. It's not one single thing. It's not having just polycystic ovaries. It could mean a combination of things, the other three things that I told you. And also, in addition to this, women with PCOS tend to have something called insulin resistance. Now, you might have heard of the term insulin commonly because type 2 diabetes is very common in India. We are a little bit more familiar with what insulin is, but I'm still going to go ahead and explain. Now, when you eat food, it's broken down into simpler form of glucose, and it is absorbed by every single cell in your body because every single cell is working. It needs energy to grow, to do its function, and to develop our body. So when you eat food, it's broken down to glucose, and the glucose is circulating in your bloodstream. So we have this gland called pancreas, which secretes a hormone called insulin. Now, this insulin makes it possible for your cells to access the glucose, to pull it in and use it up for energy. Now, in cases of type 2 diabetes, or if you have insulin resistance, the cells in your body become resistant to the function of the hormone insulin. Now, because they are resistant to insulin, they are not able to absorb the glucose into the cells. So you could have high blood sugar levels, but your cells are not getting the energy that they need. Now, this is seen in diabetes, but in women with PCOS also, the starting stage of it, called insulin resistance, is seen. That is, your cells are less sensitive to insulin. It's not completely insensitive, but less sensitive. Now, this is commonly observed in women with PCOS. So a syndrome means you could have a group of conditions associated with that particular issue. And polycystic ovaries is not the only symptom. Why do we get PCOS? There is no exact cause that is known as to say, okay, this is the reason you have PCOS, or this is why you got PCOS. There is no way of knowing what the exact cause is. People are looking into it. We still don't know. But it's possible that genetic and environmental factors could play a role in a person developing PCOS. For example, in a family, if a mother has PCOS, there are higher chances that the offsprings, the children, the female children could also have PCOS. If a sibling, if your sister has PCOS, then it's possible that you might have slightly higher chances of having PCOS than other people. Now, how do we diagnose PCOS? Like I said, there are several symptoms, and not everybody has the same set of symptoms. And even the degree or the intensity of the symptom could be different. For some women, they could have excessive hair growth, but for some women, it could be milder. So, how do we diagnose it? One thing is getting a blood test done. It could show whether your male hormone levels are elevated. Remember, we talked about having higher testosterone in women who have PCOS. Now, not everybody has all of these symptoms, but if you do have it, it's going to show up in your blood test. And the second thing, having insulin resistance can also be found if you get a blood test done. The other way of diagnosing is getting an ultrasound. So that will show whether you have cysts on your ovaries. And sometimes the gynecologist will perform a physical pelvic exam in order to manually assess your organs. Now, in combination, if you do all of these tests and see what it tells you, see the overall picture, seeing that, your doctor will be able to see whether you have PCOS or not. Now, why should we talk so much about PCOS? Why are we very worried about PCOS? The first thing is insulin resistance. Now, in women with PCOS, this is more common. Insulin resistance, if left unmanaged, can develop to pre-diabetic stage. And if that is left unmanaged, it could develop to having full-blown type 2 diabetes in the future. There seems to be a chat. So there, someone has asked a question. Blood test means hormones level measurement or others. Yes. So like I said, in women with PCOS, your male hormone levels could be slightly elevated than other women. So if you get a blood test done, that's something called free androgen index, which measures your male hormone level in your body. Now that could tell you whether it is slightly elevated. And also the other hormone that is being affected by PCOS, which is your insulin. Now if you're insulin resistant, that could also show up slightly elevated blood sugar levels, and your doctor will be able to make a diagnosis using all of that information. The second risk that is increased, no problem. So the second thing that is affected if you have PCOS is your weight levels. Now in women with PCOS, they have an increased risk of becoming obese in the future. And conversely, women who have excessive weight in their bodies could also tend to develop PCOS. They also have increased risk. So it works both ways. If you have PCOS, it increases the risk that you could become obese. And if you have excessive body weight, it could increase the chance that you get PCOS in the future. The third thing, the most common concern that women have, and like Harini mentioned, when women don't get their periods on time or when they don't get it at all, that can just add so much stress because we know something is going on in our bodies. So it leads to a lot of mental stress. And the other thing that gets affected is when you're ready to have a child, when you're at that stage where you want to conceive but you're not able to because you have PCOS, then that could lead to a lot of pressure on yourself. First of all, you will be stressed out that you're not sure if you're going to get pregnant or if this is going to affect your life in a big way. So that adds on stress on yourself. And on top of that, as a society, women are expected to be able to give birth and have children. So when that gets delayed, when you're 27, 28 and you're still not able to conceive, that's the stage where it could lead to a lot of mental health issues, including depression. Now, the other thing is dyslipidemia. Lipid means fat level. So we all know that the cholesterol levels in our body is very important. In dyslipidemia, it means the cholesterol level is affected. It's either high or the good cholesterol level. The HDL cholesterol, commonly called the good cholesterol level, could be low. So in women with PCOS, at least one of the lipid levels could be abnormal. That is, you could have high LDL cholesterol or high total cholesterol, high triglyceride level, or you could have low HDL cholesterol level. So at least one of these measurements will be affected. And the other risk is having type 2 diabetes in the future. If you leave your insulin resistance unmanaged, it could proceed to pre-diabetes and full-blown type 2 diabetes in the future. And the last, not the last, but the last on the slide is hypertension, that is elevated blood pressure levels. So women with PCOS are at an increased risk for a bunch of conditions, which is why we need to manage it at the earliest stage possible. That brings us to how to manage PCOS. Now, if you have any question about the condition itself, you can ask in the chat box now, or you can always ask in the end when we do our Q&A session. Right now, we can move on to how to manage PCOS. PCOS cannot be cured. It is not something that can be completely cured with some treatment or some medication, but it can be managed. If you look at people with type 2 diabetes, they learn how to live with it throughout their life without letting it affect them. So if you manage the condition effectively, you can have a good life, you can have a symptom free life if you're doing the management well. Now, how to manage PCOS? That's the most important question. PCOS can be managed by incorporating some things in your life. The first one is making lifestyle changes. When I say lifestyle changes, it usually means look at your diet. Is your diet serving you well? Is your diet helping you? The second thing is physical activity. Are you doing enough physical activity? Every human being needs exercise. That's the fact. But we are not, most of us don't get enough of it. Now, with PCOS, it is not a punishment. It is not saying you need to exercise every day of your life. I'm just saying everybody needs exercise. If you have PCOS or diabetes or any other condition, you just need to have that extra care that you're taking care of your body. Now, anyone who doesn't exercise, only when they have something developing in their body, some kind of a condition, they would start paying more attention to it. So we are at the stage, if we have PCOS, we are at the stage where it is time to actually start focusing on your physical activity levels. And the other thing that you can possibly do is, if you have excessive body weight, losing that excess weight has been shown to have a lot of beneficial effects. Losing even just a little bit of weight, 5 to 10% of your total body weight, if you're in the overweight or obese category, can improve your symptoms. And the last thing is, not the last thing, there's another thing. So the other most common management technique is using medication. Now, for insulin resistance, women are prescribed metformin. That brings down their glucose level, but it's only addressing the superficial symptom. Now, deep inside, if you have resistance, working on your lifestyle changes can improve it from within yourself. And talking about medication, there's another medication which is oral contraceptive pills. They help you get your period. But again, without lifestyle changes, if you're on the pill, only when you're on the pill, you'll be getting your period. So lifestyle changes again becomes very important. And for any other external symptoms like acne, your dermatologist could prescribe some medication to you. And the other very rare or not very common way of managing is laparoscopic surgery, but it's not very common, so we wouldn't be addressing it. So we would also not be going into detail about the medication. I'm here to talk about the first two things: lifestyle management and weight loss if needed. There seems to be a question. Overweight women have possibility for PCOS. Now, yes, no, I'm not saying everybody who is overweight will have PCOS, but if you are overweight, you have higher chances of having PCOS. And yes, PCOD and PCOS are used to describe the same thing. Now, we started using PCOS because syndrome means a group of symptoms, like a bunch of symptoms associated with some particular issue, which is why we started referring to this as PCOS. Does PCOS lead to weight loss? Now, PCOS by itself, if you have PCOS, doesn't mean you will immediately lose weight. That's not how it works. But if you have PCOS, you need to look into losing weight if you have excessive body weight. Did that answer your question? PCOS by itself will not lead to weight loss. Okay. Now, going into nutrition. Okay. So, if you have PCOS, and you, if you're just diagnosed, or if you just want to make some changes, and you go online and you type diet for PCOS, you will get 1,000 different results, and each of those will be conflicting each other. One result would say cut out dairy, the other one would say cut out gluten completely, another would say don't eat carbohydrates. And these are all very conflicting information and also misinformation. They're not really right, they're not correct. If you have PCOS, it doesn't mean you need to cut anything out blindly and that will cure your PCOS. Like we talked about, it can't be cured, it can be managed. And for you to manage, you don't need to go into some completely different kind of a diet. Look at your own existing diet, see if it can be improved, or if it needs to be modified, it should be modified. Now, speaking of our existing diet, we all, majority of us would be following an Indian diet, right? So okay, I'll come to the question section in a bit. So we all mostly tend to follow an Indian diet, even if you don't eat Indian foods regularly. This session could still be useful. You could still interpret it in your own way. Now, speaking of Indian diets, our Indian diets are very rich in carbohydrates. You go to any restaurant, you will find only carbohydrate rich foods. Dosa with sambar and chutney. If you order roti, roti with some vegetable curry. So even in any restaurant, you'll get rice, you'll get tons of rice, and rice will be served unlimited. And in along with that, you will get your sambar or vegetable curry or any other thing that you eat. And if you're a non-vegetarian, you'd probably order something non-vegetarian. So my point is, in India, carbohydrates is available everywhere and available freely. Now, carbohydrates does not cause diabetes or PCOS or insulin resistance by itself. It's just that when people are at an increased risk and they're eating a lot of carbohydrates, remember we talked about insulin resistance. So your body is not able to absorb the glucose quickly. It's going to be slower and less efficient than compared to other people. So if you're loading yourself with carbohydrates, that could lead to increased blood sugar levels. So which is why in PCOS, see if the proportion of carbohydrates you're eating is correct for you. And also look at the quality of the carbohydrates. So quantity and quality are very important when it comes to carbohydrates. Now, there is a myth that you can't eat white rice if you have insulin resistance, if you have PCOS, or if you have type 2 diabetes. That is not very accurate information. You don't need to completely cut out white rice, but if you're eating a lot of white rice, that is still carbohydrates at the end of the day. That is still refined carbohydrates. So what you need to look at is focus on quantity, increase the other things on your plate. I'll come to that in a little bit. So when we're looking at carbohydrates for women with PCOS, try to go for unrefined or complex carbohydrates whenever possible. You don't need to switch to brown rice. You don't need to cut out white rice and switch to brown rice. But if you feel that's helping you feel full and helping you eat lesser amount of carbohydrates, go for it. There's no issues. And increasing your dals, any other pulses, legumes, all of these also increase the fiber content in your diet, which is very important. And your fruits and vegetables, very, very important. In every single meal, our proportion is so off that we have a lot of carbohydrates and we have very little vegetables on the side. Reverse that. Have more vegetables, have the right amount of carbohydrates, and don't avoid fruits. There is also another myth that if you have PCOS or if you have insulin resistance, you shouldn't eat fruits at all. No, that is not correct. If you have sugar by itself, that is a refined form of carbohydrates, and that's going to get absorbed in your blood very quickly. But if you eat a fruit, it comes with a lot of fiber. It is not going to get released as quickly as simple refined sugar. That is where people get confused. Because fruit tastes sweet, people think that it is bad. That is not the case. It comes with fiber. That is why don't make it into a juice. If you make juice, you strain the fiber, you take it out and you throw it away. And then what you drink becomes refined sugars. Instead, have it as the fruit itself. Now, have more vegetables, have fruits instead of fruit juice if you can avoid it. But if you really like fruit juice, fine, you can have it once in a while. And the other thing is, include more whole grains, more or less of refined carbohydrates. Maida is not bad. It's not something that should be completely avoided, but understand that it is a refined form of carbohydrates. You will be better off if you eat something that is not refined, because it will make you feel fuller and the blood sugar level will increase steadily and not spike up like that. So once in a while, it's totally fine for you to have what you want. Have ice cream, have anything made with maida. It's totally fine because we need that for our happiness. We feel restricted when we completely cut out some foods. So instead of going all out and changing your diet completely, focus on making it more of whole grain based. Have more complex carbohydrates and enjoy other foods once in a while when you want. Next, moving to protein. Our Indian diet, as it is, if you don't consciously include protein, it is very easy for you to eat very less amount of protein. That's just how it happens, especially for vegetarians. Now, dals have some protein, but if you notice, when we make dal at home, we add very less amount of dals, and we add so much of water. So at the end of the day, what comes to your plate is going to be a watery version of something that has some amount of proteins. That is not enough in your entire day. Say you weigh 50 kgs, the minimum recommendation is to have 1 gram of protein per kg body weight. So you would need 50 grams of protein. Just having sambar in every meal, it's not going to cover it at all. Just having dal in every meal, it's not going to cut it. So make sure, if you're a vegetarian, you could look at other protein sources, like say channa, rajma, paneer. If you eat tofu, that's great. Tofu, dairy products, curd, yogurt, milk. All of these things could contribute to your protein intake. And if you're a non-vegetarian, that's easier for you to get more protein. Include eggs in your diet. Include eggs, cheapest source of protein, and also complete source of protein. If you eat meat, include meat in your diet. If you eat paneer, other dairy products, go ahead and include those. Seafood, they're all great sources of protein. So this slide just shows you in comparison how much protein is present in each food item. So it is just for you to look at. Now, if you look at this list, if you need 50 grams of protein in a day, if you go for the highest sources of protein consistently every single day, you will be meeting your minimum requirement at least. But what most of us do is we tend to forget, or when we go out, especially to a restaurant, like I said before, they'll serve dosa, they'll serve watery sambar and chutney. Now, that is not giving you any protein at all. So what you need to do is consciously focus on how to increase your protein intake. And carbohydrate rich foods usually contain less amount of protein. If you look at cereals, it could be rice or it could be wheat. They do contain protein, but very minimal amount. So you're not going to meet your protein intake just by thinking that, okay, I'm eating this, I'm eating rice, I'm eating rotis, it's going to help. No, your overall intake requirement is going to be higher. The next important macronutrient is fat. People with PCOS, they either like to avoid fat completely or they like to go full fat, that is low carbohydrate, or going into a keto diet. So there are a lot of people out there telling, if you have diabetes or PCOS, do a keto diet. No. So if you remember, we talked about insulin resistance. Your cells are going to be slightly resistant to insulin. So your glucose absorption is getting impaired. Now in keto diets, if you cut out your carbohydrate source completely, you're only just taking away what could, um, what could show up as the symptom. You're not curing anything. You're not solving any issue. You're just simply removing carbohydrates. The minute you eat it again, the symptom is still going to be there. So instead of cutting something out temporarily, focus on improving your existing diet, like I said before. So fats, they are not bad. You need fats. They are essential. That is why they are a very important macronutrient. But instead of going for products that have trans fat, if you read nutrition label, you'll be able to see that all these processed foods sometimes come with trans fat. Now that is the kind of fat we need to avoid. And saturated fat, like the one you find in ghee, butter, they're not wrong. You don't need to completely avoid saturated fat, but just keep an eye on the quantity. Don't go overboard with saturated fat. Instead, what you should be doing is increasing the unsaturated fat in your diet. Now, when I say unsaturated fat, just think of nuts, seeds, some oils actually, and fatty fish. Now, if you're someone who doesn't eat fatty fish, you might need to look at some supplements that I will come to in the next part of my presentation. Okay, so the next is supplementation. So we talked about carbohydrates, protein, and fat. And under carbohydrates, I also mentioned that you need to increase your fiber intake. So these are the things that you need to focus on when it comes to your diet. When it comes to your diet, if your diet is good and you still need some supplements, it's not wrong to take supplements. But if your diet is not helping you at all, then supplementing alone will not help you in any way. So first, fix your diet, enrich your diet, and then look at some supplements. If you don't get enough protein in a day, if you struggle with meeting your protein requirement, then focus on maybe trying to have whey protein. Whey protein is not something that's going to make you gain weight. I'll tell you that right now. Whey protein is simply a source of protein for you. If you're not able to include protein in your diet every day through whole foods, then you can supplement it with whey whey protein. The next is omega 3 fatty acids. If you don't eat fish regularly, consider taking omega 3 fatty acid supplement. The other thing is vitamin D. A lot of research has been done on these supplements, which is why I'm putting these on a slide for you. Vitamin D, if you're deficient in vitamin D, it will show up in your blood test. Get a blood test done and start supplementing with the help of your doctor. The other one is inositol. Now, this is a vitamin like substance. It's not very commonly talked about in India, but there is a lot of research showing that it's helping women with PCOS improve their symptoms. The other one is probiotics. Now, again, all of this needs to be based on the individual's requirement. These are just things that have been researched on, and I'm showing you the possibilities. If you need to find out what you need, get a blood work done and see if you need to take it, and work with someone, work with a doctor or a nutritionist to see what supplements you would need. But probiotics is something that's not, it's just something you could consider taking if you have, if you feel like your gut health can be improved, then you can look at probiotic supplements. The next part is physical activity. What you eat gives you energy to go inside your body, and you need to spend that energy in a good way. You need to spend enough energy every single day. So what happens is, if you take in more energy and you're not using it, that is when it gets stored. It gets stored as fat in your body, which is why people talk about exercise so much. So if you're consuming food, make sure you're burning the right amount of energy. Otherwise, that is when it gets stored as fat in your body. So in order to spend that energy, you're spending energy throughout the whole day. Your organs are working to keep you alive, to keep you breathing, digestion, circulation. All of these things are using up energy. In addition to that, we also need to look at spending a little bit more energy doing some form of intentional exercise. Now, exercise, if you're not currently exercising at all, you can start off by doing something a few days in a week. Don't go all out and spend 2-3 hours at the gym every day. You don't need to do that in order to lose weight if you have PCOS. Start small, but start and slowly and steadily increase the level of physical activity. Now, for women, if you're not doing any physical activity, increasing to cardio itself is going to be beneficial. When I say cardio, it is cardio means any exercises that keeps you moving and keeps you breathing. So it's an aerobic form of exercise. So it could be running, walking, it could be cycling, or on the gym if you go on the elliptical. All of these are cardiovascular exercises. So these are aerobic exercises. Now there is another category which is strength training. A common misconception that this section in the gym, the strength section in the gym, is only for men. But in fact, it is very important for all of us and for any age group. Even older people will benefit by lifting some weights. Now, again, going back to insulin resistance, if you do strength training, if you train your muscles are going to become more sensitive to the insulin. It is going to be easier for your body to absorb the glucose. So instead of cutting out carbohydrates completely from your diet by doing some keto diet or something, if you focus on increasing the sensitivity of your cells to insulin, then the problem is going to be managed. Your cells are going to be able to utilize the glucose better. So don't shy away from the weight section. Now, if you're someone who likes to do a bunch of different things, do a combination. Try different things every week. Make different plans. Go for a swim on one day. Go for a run on one day. Or if you like to play badminton with your friends. If you like strength training, incorporate it into your routine. Just go to the gym. Maybe even 2 days a week is going to help you a lot. So as women, don't shy away from the weight section. And there is also another misconception that we'll get bulky if we lift weights. Yes, in PCOS, the testosterone level is slightly elevated, but it's nowhere as close to what men have. Men have these male hormones that help them get more muscular and get larger. When they work out, their muscles get larger. But for women, with doing the regular amount of physical activity, it is just not possible for you to get bulky. In on the contrary, you will start shedding some fat and you will start noticing your muscles developing, but it's not going to get bulky. I talk so much about strength training because it has a lot of benefits which we don't know about. You look at the weight section, you will see men lifting weights. What we tend to think is they're doing it for the aesthetics. Yes, some of them might be doing it for the aesthetics, but there are a lot of benefits under that. One thing, the first thing is it can reduce your body fat. It can definitely help you lose fat. The second thing is it can preserve your muscle mass. When you're trying to lose fat, if you completely, reduce your food, some people go on starvation diets. They eat very less amount of food to try to lose weight quickly. But you could lose muscle mass also if you do that. So, which is why if you do strength training, your muscle mass will be preserved. And also it increases insulin sensitivity, increases muscular strength, decreases risk of heart disease in the future. And the other thing is improving blood sugar levels, which I talked about before, and increasing bone mineral density. This is important for women in general and for older people. Your bone mass matters a lot. If you don't have enough bone mass, when you grow older, your risk of fracture increases. Now, this might seem like an issue that's very far, far away, but look at all your grandparents. There are some older people who are in good health, but the minute they fall and break something, everything goes down the drain. They start becoming weak, they start losing their muscle mass, and it can be irreversible damage done to your body. So, as women, even from right now, it's very important to take care of your bone health, especially for older women. Okay. So these are the things that I wanted to talk to you all about PCOS. First, we talked about what the condition itself. Second, we talked about diagnosis, symptoms, and we talked about managing. For management, your diet and your physical activity are extremely important. And when I say diet, focus on improving your diet and also supplement it if needed. Don't be hesitant to get a blood test to see if your vitamin D level is low. And don't be hesitant to take supplement. People think supplements are medicines. They are simply concentrated form of the vitamins that you need. Vitamin D is literally a vitamin. There is no way that you'll get enough from your food if you're deficient. So don't read some post online saying this has milk has vitamin D, egg yolk has vitamin D. Yes, they do have vitamin D, but it's not going to give you enough for you to overcome the deficiency. So don't shy away from supplementing if needed. And the other thing is physical activity. A combination of cardio and strength training is going to benefit you a lot. But if you don't like either one of those, just start with any of them. Okay. So I'm going to stop sharing now and see if you all were able to listen to the whole thing. If you have any questions, we can talk now. Okay.
Guys, feel free to ask questions.
Okay, so I see some questions in the chat box. We need to take a balanced diet. Yes, you need to have a balanced diet. And that's a very good question. Thank you for bringing this up. So, I said you don't need to go on a keto diet, which is a full fat diet. But for some women, they like doing a low carbohydrate diet better because fat is very filling. Sometimes if you increase the fat content in your meal, some people feel fuller and that helps them stay on the track to lose weight. So it is not that there is one single diet that is best for everyone, and not everybody needs to have a balanced diet. A balanced diet can look different for each person. Now for me, slightly reducing my carbohydrate intake and increasing protein and fat in my diet can be very satisfying and can help me lose weight consistently. Then that is what I will tend to do. But if you are someone who likes to have a little bit lower fat and more carbohydrates, that's still fine. So it needs to be individualized based on what you like to do and what you can follow for the rest of your life. Now remember, PCOS is a condition that you need to manage in the long term. So try to Follow a diet that is sustainable for you. Find out what you like. Refined as in more concentrated. So when I say refined carbohydrates, it means that the fiber is stripped from it. Now in maida, you have absolutely no fiber content, very minimal fiber content. And in sugar, it is taken from cane, but it is refined to the point where it is simply going to give you carbohydrates and no fiber. That is what I mean when I say refined carbohydrates. Certain stages for treating PCOS and when we could understand it is a severe condition. So the number of cysts on your ovaries, so that could be higher for some women, and a certain stage for treating PCOS. Now, when you get it diagnosed is important. So if you're getting it diagnosed in your early 20s, start managing it from that point onwards. If you find out later in your say late 20s and you're at a stage where you need to start looking at getting pregnant, so that's going to give you less time and more stress for you to work on improving your symptoms. So I would say that early diagnosis is important, so you learn how to manage it so that when you're at the point where you need to have a child, you'll be ready for it. And definitely it's possible to conceive even with having PCOS if you start making these lifestyle changes. So somebody asked me this question, more frequent and long periods like 2 period cycles in a month, continues 10 days. Like I said, it's not common in PCOS to have more frequent bleeding. It is common to have less frequent bleeding. So I would say that work with your gynecologist, meet your gynecologist, talk to them, see if there is any other condition that is leading to this. And diet plan for PCOS. Like I said, there is no diet chart that I can make that is going to benefit all of you. Each of your bodies is different. So nutrient proportion needs to be something that you can follow. If you go follow a high fat diet, a low carbohydrate diet, but you don't even like consuming that much of fat, that's not going to be sustainable. Remember, with a diet, it shouldn't be something that you don't like doing. Don't do something you don't like doing. That's not how it's supposed to be. Do something that you can continue with for your lifetime. Okay, PCOS affects baby formation. What is the reason? Like I said, the hormones are very important for you to for your fertility. When your menstrual cycle is affected, your fertility is affected, which is why women have some trouble conceiving a baby. Now, there is no special medication that's going to help you at that particular time. Again, this might sound repetitive, but make these lifestyle changes, improve your fertility. How can we manage hair fall due to PCOS? That is a very good question. Now, you can talk to a dermatologist, talk to someone who can help you manage the external symptoms. Like I said before, there are some internal things happening in your body which can be fixed with lifestyle changes. There are external symptoms which you can work with, like for acne, work with a dermatologist to see if you can treat it superficially. In the meantime, work on your inner body's health. PCOS changes thyroid hormones level. Now, hypothyroidism is a condition that could have similar symptoms, so it can get a little confusing. Sometimes there could be some misdiagnosis. So get your thyroid levels checked separately. Rule out hypothyroidism and then see if you have PCOS. So if I'm not saying that doctors might not look for it, but if you think you want to eliminate it, get a thyroid panel test done. See if it's hypothyroidism that is leading to any of these symptoms. In hypothyroidism, there could be modest weight gain. That is, people with hypothyroidism can tend to gain weight more easily than other people. So just ruling out hypothyroidism is important to get a good diagnosis, get the right diagnosis that you have PCOS. And any other questions? Again, they're the same thing. PCOS, just there is a slight difference in the name because people started understanding that it's a syndrome. And a disorder means one particular thing is affected. A syndrome means multiple things could be affected. So which is why they changed the name. It's referred to as PCOS right now. Any other question? Everybody is asking really great questions. So if you have anything else that is not clear, then you can put it in the chat box or unmute yourself and ask. And again, the diet plan, I would love to give something that you can all follow, but it doesn't work like that. One person might need different amount of calories, the other person might need different amount of calories. So anything that you get off the internet, it might not help you at all. PCOS directly affect bone density. Now that is a good question. So because in women who undergo menopause, their estrogen levels drop. So that is when their bone mineral density could be affected. But otherwise, in PCOS itself, I am not sure how the fluctuation of the hormones will affect bone mineral density. But that's a good question. I can look it up and get back to you on that. Is there any food specifically to balance hormone levels? So when we say hormone levels, we are talking about in PCOS especially, we are talking about estrogen, progesterone, and your um, insulin, right? These are the hormones that we are specifically talking about. So in this case, in particularly in PCOS, if you manage your diet well, all of these should naturally balance out. There is not one single food which you can take that's going to change this. Now look at insulin. How do you balance insulin levels? By eating more fiber, eating lesser refined carbohydrates. I'm not saying completely cut it out, but eating more whole grains and more complex carbohydrates rather than eating refined carbohydrates can balance your insulin levels out. So we look for specific single foods, but I am saying the combination matters more, especially with estrogen and progesterone, and even having higher testosterone levels. If like I mentioned before, if you all remember, losing even 5 to 10% of your excessive body weight can have a good impact on these hormone levels. Is there any foods? Okay, I answered that one. How do I lose weight instead of gaining weight with PCOD? How do I, sorry. Weight instead of gaining weight is completely opposite with normal symptoms, which confuse me a lot. Okay, so how do I lose weight and stuff? I understood the first part of the question well. The second one, I'm just not sure what you mean by normal symptoms. So, in women with PCOS, weight gain is a little bit more common. So, what you can do is remember, I talked about diet and physical activity. I'll just give you a short explanation of how fat loss works. So, when you eat more energy, say in your body, you eat 2000 calories every day, but you're burning only 1500 calories. The extra 500 calories, where does it go? It gets stored as fat. That's when weight gain happens. So, when you want to lose weight, you need to adjust these levels accordingly. You need to eat just a little bit lesser. Don't go on starvation diets. Don't cut out 2 meals from your diet and have only one meal. Just reduce your calorie intake a little bit and increase your physical activity a little bit more. So when you achieve this balance, you start losing weight in a steady pace. Now, this is the same recommendation for everybody, whether you have PCOS or you don't have PCOS. Losing weight comes down to these two things. If you read anything online, like saying apple cider vinegar helps you lose weight, or having lemon water in the morning helps you lose weight, there is a lot of science behind it. If you're consuming excess calories, that's going to get stored as fat. Just drinking these two things is not going to magically burn fat. If there is a product that can magically burn fat, wouldn't everybody be taking that? And it's the same case with carbohydrates. If anybody tells you don't eat carbohydrates, that is what is causing, type 2 diabetes or insulin resistance. All of us in India, we are dependent on carbohydrates. We eat the same rice, we eat the same wheat, but not all of us develop diabetes. So there are other underlying factors, but managing your carbohydrate levels is important. So instead of completely cutting out carbohydrates because somebody on the internet told you to do, question yourself, are you eating the right amount of carbohydrates? That is more important. Okay, so to answer your question in a short way, how do I lose weight? It's the same recommendation as for everybody else. Your diet and your physical activity needs to balance each other out. Any other questions? And if anything I said was not clear, just let me know. I'm happy to repeat it. Okay. So if that is the end of the questions, Thank you for joining, and I'm glad you asked a lot of questions. I'm happy to clear all of your doubts. I want you all to walk away from the session with at least a little bit more information than what you had before on PCOS.
So thank you so much, everybody, for joining. I'm just
Thank you, Kavita and Janani, Madhumita, Nikin. Thank you all of you for joining and also for asking a lot of good questions.
Thank you so much, everybody, for joining. So the feedback link has been posted in the chat box. So please do give your feedbacks. And there is an option to ask questions. So if you have any other queries, please type your questions there. We'll answer and send all the questions compiled as a PDF to all people who have participated today. So it will be beneficial for people who haven't attended also. So thank you so much, Bharti, for accepting our invitation and giving a lot of valid information regarding PCOS, and hope it was very informative for everybody. So thank you so much, guys, and have a good evening.
Thank you. Have a good
Thank
evening.
you, Bharati. Very informative session. Thank you so much.
Okay.